How you going, Phil?
Okay, Jonathan.
Finally got you up to Claremont.
It's the first time here. It's fantastic.
And of course we had to put on some really nice weather for you while you're here. Nice and wet and muddy.
You brought out the best, I'm sure.
GPX 5000, new machine, a lot of new features and functions. Just briefly, if you could just give me a bit of an overview, what's new on the machine, etc.
Yeah, the quick rundown, I guess we've changed some electronics in the detector, some electronics in the front end. We've added some timings for prospectors and coin and relic hunters. We've also made a few other changes in the menus, particularly for the 5000. We've added some more gain adjustment settings, and we've also got a 4800 that comes along with it as well.
Which is it like a replacement for the 45 or?
It's got some similar features to the 4500, but it's basically a price reduction on the 5000.
So the 4800 actually benefits from some changes made to the 5000. That would be an improvement over a 45.
They share very similar electronics,
okay.
yes.
Okay, so to benefit from the new enhanced, for instance, yeah.
Oh, definitely.
One of the things that, like the big feedback that I'm getting back from people, and just my own personal experience with the 5000, is the fact that it's just noticeably quieter. What's actually causing the machine to be so much quieter than the 45, which we all thought was very quiet anyway?
Yeah, we're getting lots of reports from the field. People are really happy with how quiet the detector is. And we've made a number of changes in the electronics from the front end, from the receiver through to the audio output. And all of those small changes add up to some gains in noise reduction.
Yeah, okay, so when you say gains, you mean actually it's lesser?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, I mean, one of the first things I noticed is with the ground balance. Now, recently I was on the Minelab website, the minelab.com website, and I noticed that you are a regular contributor on the Treasure Talk section there of the website, and you made mention about noise, etc. I assume you're referring to the ground balance?
Yeah, we've changed the electronics at the front end. What we found is that the 4500 in some extreme grounds couldn't ground balance as close to the ground as what you'd like. Sometimes you had to leave the detector, the coil slightly above the ground to get a decent ground balance.
Yep.
And so with the 5000, we've increased the range that the ground can operate over.
Okay.
And that allows the 5000 to ground balance all the way to the ground in some of those more extreme grounds.
Right.
We don't have the facilities here, but on the blog they've got some images there that help you to understand that.
Yep, good. So I'll direct people to that section of the website.
The Treasure Talk blog's actually really good because it gives an outlet to talk about technical aspects of the detector that we can't put into the manual, and things that are sort of hidden into the designers' heads that don't otherwise get out.
Yeah, okay. And of course, Minelab encourage customers to get in there and ask some questions and get actively involved in discussions.
Of course, we love the comments.
Excellent. Oh, good. All right. Now, of course, the new big thing about the 5000, the total new timing, is the fine gold timings. Can you tell me a little bit about fine gold and what it offers over enhance?
Yeah, the fine gold timings are in the class of what we call the smooth timings. Right. So it's like enhance, it's like sensitive smooth.
So it ignores mineralisation with a monolith core.
It's a lot quieter in hot ground, yes. And fine is particularly optimised towards smaller targets. And so you'll find definite improvements, definite depth advantage when you use fine gold timings on those smaller targets than over enhance.
But you're still going to have the ground ignoring capabilities with the mono, so that the ground noise isn't such an issue, and hot rocks are still, but you will get...
It's still quiet like enhance, and you get that depth advantage over the smaller targets.
So from an outright depth performance point of view, on say a large target at depth, will enhance and fine gold have equal sort of performance, or is fine gold slightly better? Or
no, they're very similar.
Very similar.
Yeah, the bigger improvements are in the smaller targets. Yeah.
All right,
but there's no trade-offs. There's no disadvantage to using it on those larger targets.
Okay, so the only thing would be with fine gold is it will make slightly more ground noise because it's more sensitive, which could be counterproductive.
In some grounds it might, particularly more conductive grounds.
Okay, and of course that's the whole point of having the three timings: smooth, enhance,
fine
gold.
Exactly. The timings are like a mode setting for the detector electronics.
Right.
They just optimise the detector for certain situations.
Okay, which is why, I mean, how many timings we've got on these things now? Is it 6 timings or 8 timings, I think, in the 5000, isn't it? That's a lot of timings.
Yeah, there is a lot.
And of course, CEDA allows that to... I assume CEDA still is part of the 5000?
CEDA is a definite requirement. With so many timings, you need to have the detector optimised for each and every timings, which is what CEDA does for you.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. Minelab have released 2 detectors at once here, the 4800 and the 5000. What's the point of the 4800? I know it's got only 6 timings and some less features. What's the advantage of the 4800? Like, I know that you're pretty passionate about the coin and relic timings in these machines now, and I know you've had a bit to do with the coin and relic aspect of it. What's the aim behind the 4800 and the coin relic side of the two detectors?
The 4800 is got fewer features, fewer timings than the 5000. It shares a very similar electronic platform as the 5000. And it gives us a way of producing a detector at a lower cost for people that don't want all the features of the 5000.
So someone like who wants to look for coin and relics over in Europe or in the US,
exactly.
for instance, they can buy at a cheaper price point, but still access the ability to go and look for really deep.
Exactly. I think there's application for the GPX range of detectors for pulse induction in coin and relic hunting.
Okay.
I've been to places in the US, for instance, in Virginia, where the ground there is quite hot. And a pulse induction detector, a GPX, is really good in those environments.
Right, okay.
And it certainly goes a lot deeper than the traditional coin and relic machines.
Yeah. Now, I've actually tried coin relic here in Australia, and I can't get the coil anywhere near the ground. So who's going to actually benefit from that timing? Obviously, it's not well suited for Australian conditions.
No, the ground has got to be very quiet, very low levels of ground mineralisation, almost benign. So you can see great improvements when you do air depth testing.
Okay.
And in benign grounds. So on low mineralisation beaches of Florida, for instance, I've tried the timings there, and other benign grounds.
So the timing will actually work on, what, dry beach sand, I assume, will it?
Yeah, it'll not do too badly in wet beach sand as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, because the next leading question was the new salt gold. I would assume that would be aimed at that type of...
Yes, definitely. The salt gold timings are for conductive grounds, salty grounds, and high levels of mineralisation. So particularly the dry salt lakes of Western Australia and other similar environments. Whereas the other timing, so the beach relic timings, the coin relic timings that we were just talking about there, we actually began the development of those timings based around operation on beaches and salty environments.
Oh, really? Okay, that's interesting. But yeah, obviously there's not too many places in Australia just because our continent is so old.
Exactly, exactly. And the black sands of the west coast of the US are not appropriate either. Okay. But there's other environments that are particularly well suited.
Right, okay.